Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to SAFRL Tier 1 on a Monday night, Season 6, Round 4. We're at Silverstone, and not only that, we're here for a sprint race. So obviously, as usual, we have the 18-minute session, just 17 and a half minutes of that session remaining. That is for the guys to go out and set the grid. Obviously, that will be the grid for the sprint race, and then the sprint race itself for the feature race. Evening to Cheddar, evening to Andre, Skull, Death Queen. We now await the first action out on track. You can already see some cars leaving their grid boxes. F123 out on track, as is Jacques, the two Williams getting out early. Williams unveiling their 2004 car a few hours ago. And hopefully it won't affect my viewership. But Sauber is launching their car at 9 o'clock. Remember that qualifying has been incredibly important. So far this season, round 1, 2 and 3, the race has been won by the man on pole. Three rounds, three winners. Don Rabico winning race 1, round 1, from pole position. Followed by Weeze in round 2, winning from pole position. And then last week, Mango winning from pole as well. We're at the home of English motorsport, the Silverstone circuit. Obviously redesigned in recent years. A lot of quick drivers out on track, a lot of favourites. Don't know if that's the right word, a lot of favourites. I don't know who's going to win this. Going to need help from the guys in the comment section. Who do you reckon for pole? What do you reckon that time is going to look like? And then what can we expect from the sprint and the feature race? Remember, no pit stops in the sprint race, no mandatory stops anyway. So it is a simple start to finish race, as long as you don't get into any trouble along the way. As for the feature race, can't say as much. Prediction for pole position, a 1:24.7, so we'll see how close we get to that as the evening progresses. That prediction from Neil. If you don't agree with that prediction, leave your prediction in the comment section. I'll read it out. We'll see who gets the closest in the end. AlphaTauri going slowly, not Shumi. Racing for Alfa Romeo. His teammate, Welsh, has already won a race this season. Guys not giving a lot of leeway in the comment section. First prediction for pole, a 1:24.7. Second prediction for pole, a 1:24.8. And that's your first times coming through now. For Smetain and Jacques, 3 and 4, Midas 1:25.8, and Big T provisional pole 1:25.6. But according to these predicted lap times, still have a lot to come. This was your pole sitter and race winner from round 3. So up in the top three, we got Big T, Midas, and Afro. Afro winning a race of his own just last night. Wizards, pole sitter from round 2. His first lap time at 26.7. Almost 1.1 seconds adrift. Big T 25.6, next best 25.8. And those are the only two in the 25s. See further back who's on a lap. We have Franz going around Cops. Into Maggots and Beckett's. Got to be really determined through these corners and get the best possible exit. Logic goes fastest, and that has beat the prediction times from our viewers. Fastest prediction time 1:24.7. I read that wrong. I thought it was a 1:24.4, 1:25.4, and beaten by France 25.3. Times are getting closer, still half a second away from prediction times. Mango or France a low 25. Well, so far France is on a low 25, a 25.3, Logic 25.4. We have Duke out on track. Pole sitter from round 1, Don Rabico out on track. Welsh returning to the pits. And then Mango. This is another driver that is yet to set a lap time that we can expect up at the top of the field. But he's chosen to come in, so I wonder if he invalidated that lap, or if the lap just wasn't going the way he wanted, but he's abandoned that lap and popped off into the pits. We'll have a tyre change and get back out there. Wheeze has retired from the session. I'm not entirely sure if that was voluntary or if he had an incident. We didn't see it on track. But Wheeze will play no further part in qualifying. 2 Red Bulls, P4 and P5, Microstatic and its Midas. After their first runs, Midas already out for a second run. He's on an outlap. Top 4 all in the pits. Second Aston Martin over the line. It's good enough for P6, a 1:25.9. Still far from his teammate. Quiet circuit now. 9 minutes to go. Thanks for that. Wheeze had a quali ban, so that explains why he has not done a lap time. He'll start from the back of the field. Luckily for him tonight, we have a sprint race and a feature race, so he can make up as much ground as he can in that sprint race and get himself a better starting position for the feature race. We'll stay now with Don Rabico because he's just gone fastest in sector 1, I believe. One ride with him as he goes through Cops past the old pits. Opens up DRS. Now in the closing stages of the lap. Maggots and Beckett's complex just so incredibly important. You can get all of it right, and if you get the exit wrong, it's really going to cost you. Don Rabico I believe he is your championship leader. Goes around the final corner. This will be his first timed lap of the evening, and it's good enough for provisional pole. A 125.2 and 0.2 of a second covered the top three. Midas returning to the pits. So both Red Bulls in the pits. Logic on the move. He's on an outlap, looking to improve. The second Mercedes-Benz, Django, currently in P7. Further down the field we have Brands, Welsh and Mango, all waiting to set their first lap times of the evening. They won't want to give themselves the handful of starting from the back of the field. They need to get those lap times down, just over 6.5 minutes remaining on the clock. It's really easy to run out of time in these short qualifying sessions. Disqualified from the session, Mr. M. So correction, Weeze will start from P19. Mr. M will take the final grid slot as he was disqualified from the session for what I understand is going in the wrong direction. We have Logic currently P3. France was on provisional pole for quite some time, then Don Rabico finally got his lap in, 25.2, beat it by 1/10 of a second. Half a tenth covers the front row. Remember, in round 1 and round 2, front row was only split by 0.08 of a second. But in every single round we've had so far, your pole sitter has gone on to win the race. Still no lap times from Mango and Welsh. They still remain in the pits. They're not out on track. Duke has rejoined the session. I wasn't aware that he had left. I actually didn't even notice that. I didn't notice that. Thanks, Andre. Yeah, it's actually both Alpines. Weeze and Mr. M, they're both Alpines. I didn't even realize they were teammates. But both Alpines will start from the final row. Big T. Just 0.08 of a second slower than his previous best around sector 1. He's giving it everything he's got. Welcome to Etienne as well in the comment section. It's great to have returning viewers. Etienne picking up some tips maybe for Wednesday night. Remember, we do this all again on Wednesday night with a different set of drivers. It'll be a sprint race. It'll be Silverstone, exactly the same calendar. One on the Monday, one on the Wednesday. But this grid here, you couldn't ask for closer. Two McLarens come into the pits, line astern. Just under 3.5 minutes remaining, so if you get into the pits quickly, change of tyres and get back out, you'll still be able to have another run. A lot of drivers in the pits, so I think we're going to see a very busy racetrack in the closing stages. At the front, all the top runners sitting in the pits from 1st down to 7th. Top driver out on track currently, it's Midas, placed P8 for Red Bull. His teammate up in P6. Very quiet racetrack at the moment. It's Midas out on track. His teammates just come out on track. He's on an outlap. But now we ride with Midas. Goes up 25.4. And that's how close the times are. 25.4. Good enough for 4th place. 0.2 of a second off provisional pole. Not Shumi on an outlap. Afro on the move yet again. Best time of a 26.1. He'll be looking to get himself into the 25s now. But provisional pole sitter emerges from the pits. France emerges from the pits. Logic now emerges from the pits. Or does he? Yes, he does. So the top 3 all on the move. It's Midas P4. Don't think he's going to be able to improve anymore. He's run out of time. Unless he's got battery charge we don't know of and he can have another go. Williams look like they'll be starting P12 and 13, and those teammates very close together. 0.03 of a second between the Williams. Couldn't ask for any closer. Remember, the top 3 are all on outlaps, and they're covered by 0.2 of a second, so it's very possible we can still see those top 3 completely switch around. Brand's also on an outlap, and he's not too far behind. 0.3 off provisional pole. Microstatic, half a second off pole. A lot of drivers out on track. Afro improves, goes P6, 25.5. But these times are ridiculous. 25.2, 25.3, 25.4, 25.4, 25.5, 25.5. 0.3 of a second cover your top 6. Here is your championship leader, as well as the constructors leaders. But that constructors championship is still wide open. I believe the advantage is just 3 points, and that's between Mercedes-Benz and Alpine. And we can all see the evening Alpine is having, so they've given themselves a handful if they want to stay in this constructors championship. Don Rabico 25.2, France 25.3. Ooh, look at that lap time in sector 1. France is still. Keep your eyes on the Aston Martin, keep your eyes on the Ferrari. Just slightly under his previous best in sector 1, so both drivers on the move. France through Cops, now on his way into the Maggotton Beckett's complex. Sequence of corners copied by the Kota circuit. Buffelsfontein is retired from the session. Big T is retired from the session. Obviously not enough time for anybody to now get out and improve. Checkered flag has fallen. We ride with France. The Aston Martin currently in P2. 0.1 of a second away from where he'd like to be. Goes around now and sets the fastest lap of the evening at 25.000. That's a 25 flat. Brands goes P3. Simps was P3 briefly, and then Brands took it back. Then Logic 25.2. It would have been good enough for Paul not so long ago. But France knew the time wasn't safe, went out, improved 25.000. And I believe that is qualifying. It's Ferrari, abandons lap and goes into the pits. And as does Welsh. I believe that is your qualifying session. Folks, 1 second covers the top 12. Fantastic driving here on a Monday night in Tier 1. Django P10, look at that. 0.7 of a second gets you P10. Extremely close lineup. Fantastic lobby we have here tonight. 20 drivers. The two Alpines have given themselves a handful. But I think we're going to have a very intriguing sprint race coming up shortly. Here are your official qualifying results. France taking pole position for the sprint race. Then Logic P2, Don Rabico P3, Brands P4, Simps P5. Then we have its Midas P6, Afro P7, Big T P8, Microstatic P9, and Django making up the top 10. The other side of the top 10, we've got its Ferrari P11, Duke in P12, not Shumi 13, wonder where you got that name, Wizards P14, Shark P15, Buffelsfontein 16, Welsh 17, and then no lap times from Mango or Wheeze, as well as a disqualification for Mr. M. We'll be back shortly. Here we go, we're back. We're back. Round 4, Silverstone sprint race coming up. Obviously after the sprint race we will have the feature race. But extra points on offer tonight. Cheddar got the closest prediction. 25,000. Predictions were in the 24s. What a quali session it was, and if that sort of race, if that sort of pace translates to the race and the drivers are that close in the race, it's going to be interesting. 4 red lights, 5 red lights, they're gone, and the cars, they're gone too. Here we go. Who will be first into turn 1? Almost looked like it was going to get messy, but the Aston Martin comes out on top. France leads the way. Don Rabico, he's worked his way up into P2 already. Remember, he started in P4, then Logic, P3, Simps. Down in P4, Brands P5. Big T also making up positions. The two Alpines, P18 and 19, they've already made up a position each. Remember, just 9 laps around this Silverstone circuit. France leads the way. Rabico still P2, lap 1 of 9. Possible race strategies, thank you there, powered by AWS. I would have never have guessed a zero pit strategy. The only reason you'll be visiting the pits during the sprint race is if you trip over someone. Now Don Rabico, he's not waiting for DRS, he's getting the job done now. Don Rabico goes into the lead, gets past France, and his next target will be to get away from that Aston Martin before DRS becomes a prominent feature in this race. It'll become a lot more difficult to get away once it does. First lap down, Don Rabico leads the race. France P2, Logic P3. Two Alpines making their way through the field nicely. At least Mr. M is making his way through the field quite nicely. He's up into P13. His teammates just made up another position and he's up into P18. So both Alpines on the move. Even if you are the faster driver coming from the back, it's not that easy coming through the field and making sure you don't have any incidents along the way. Welsh has entered the pits and he is stationary, so I presume he was serving a penalty. Welsh will come out way at the back of the field. He'll be hoping for a full course safety car to bring him back into this race. Don Rabico leads the way. Gap is half a second. France P2. Then it's a further second down to Logic. Logic doesn't have that sort of a comfort zone. He's got Simps all over the back of him and Brands all over the back of Simps. So got some close battles. Ooh, and that's a terrible camera angle. I don't want to see that. There we go. Tyre situation. You asked for it. I put it up. Don Rabico leads the way. He's on a set of softs. He's gonna have, so that means he's got the best compound in the early stages of this race. Might be feeling negative effects on those tyres towards the end of the race. As for France and Logic, they will have the medium tyre, so they should have a better second half of the race than Don Rabico does. Django becomes the first DNF. We've got a caution on our screens, but I don't see a safety car. It looks like it's going to stay a caution. Everybody's still on the move. But Django becomes the first retiree of the evening on lap 3 of 9 of this sprint race. Position changes. It's Midas. He's lost 11 positions since the start of the race. Mango, on the other hand, he's made up 11 positions. So Mango is up into P7. Don Rabico and France battling it out. What'll be crucial here is, remember, Don Rabico does have the better compound of tyres, so it's crucial for him in the early stages of the race to not only be in front, but to be opening up some sort of a gap, because remember, he's going to pit first. France and Logic, his two main competitors thus far, they will be able to go further on into this race with a better tyre. Those softs will begin to fall off. Just 9 laps, so they shouldn't be in too bad a shape. But France, for the time being, is doing everything he needs to do. Rabico now coming under pressure from Logic. And I wonder if those soft tyres are just not performing the way he thought they would. Seems like the medium is the tyre to be on. Driver in front is on mediums and he's subtly getting away. Logic's in P3 on mediums and he's putting Don Rabico under all sorts of pressure. Evening to Pantry Star as well in the comment section. A lot of the familiar names. Now Simps is being attacked by a Ferrari. He's going to hold him off for now, but he's not going to be able to do that for much longer. Logic in the worst place he can be, in the middle of a DRS train. 2 cars in front, 2 cars behind. Makes it so difficult. You have DRS, but the guy in front of you has the same advantage you do. Makes the passing so much more difficult, and while you're trying to do that, you still need to keep your eyes on your mirrors, because there's someone on your gearbox. Now we have a Ferrari going alongside Rabico, and it's going to be nicely done up the inside. The Mercedes continues to fall down the order. We just have a quick look at the Mercedes to see if there's any sort of damage. There's nothing visual on that. So Rabico just seems to be falling down the order. France leads the way. Logic P2. Rabico still in P3. But he will shortly come under pressure from Simps. Brands P5. So both Ferraris having a good evening so far. Pantry Star saying that the field tonight making him look like a safety car. Well, then you haven't seen my driving. If I wanted to enter this league would have to have like 7 or 8 tiers. Don Rabico, P3, he was falling down the order. France got past, Logic got past. In fact, I thought he was going to build a bit of a lead, at least in the opening stages, and then maybe drop off towards the end. But the medium runners have been able to handle him early on. In lap 6 of 9, France in a fantastic position, leading by 1.5 seconds. Absolutely nothing wrong with Tier 2, Andre. Cars may be just a little slower, but it's not about the ultimate pace. It's about the action, it's about the racing and the quality of driving, and I can tell you that both these tiers have an abundance. Afro picks up a 3-second time penalty. We now as well as Microstatic, those cars running line astern in 12 and 13. Rabico still P3, and these gaps have sort of just maintained now, 6/10, 3/10. They've been the same for the past 2 laps. We've lost one driver from the sprint race, but surely we will see him back for the feature race, so we'll hopefully have a grid of 20 when we get going. It's Ferrari starting to line up round 3 race winner. And it just shows you how close this field is, how competitive this field is. Round 1 was Don Rabico. Round 2 was Wheeze, rather Windsor. Then round 3, we've had 3 winners in 3 rounds, and if things end this way, we'll have 4 winners in 4 rounds. France still leads the way, Logic P2, Rabico P3, no change in the top 3, Sims P4, Brands P5, everyone holding station for now. Windsors makes up the top 10. Further back, Buffelsfontein defending from Microstatic, Afro defending from Mr. M, and Wheeze, the 2 Alpines, 14 and 15, so they've been able to make up a little bit of ground. Not as much as they would have liked. I think they would have loved to have started the feature race both within the top 10. And for the time being, race seems to be under control by France. 1.9 seconds is the gap. Logic, on the other hand, still under tremendous pressure from Rabico. Rabico wants something better than P3. Don Rabico now getting really close, just 0.2 of a second. As soon as he gets DRS, he's going to try again. Logic now in a difficult position, everybody behind him in a DRS train. He'll be the only car without DRS because he's too far away from the leader. So if he were to make any sort of mistake, lose any sort of momentum, not only could Rabico get past, but he could get swamped. Pantry Star and Andre discussing strategy in the comment section. I won't give your strategy away, don't worry. We're on the final lap. France is in firm control of this sprint race. 2.6 seconds is the gap. Logic doing everything he can, using all the battery that he has left. And he's been able to defend for now. Will he be able to bring it home? Still has Sector 2 and Sector 3 to complete. Another few DRS zones to defend. Don't think he's got that much battery left. So it's going to be a real handful. Got a lot of the guys from Tier 2 watching Tier 1. Need to get more of the Tier 1 guys watching Tier 2. Stream always so busy on a Monday night. Great to see Rabico gets past in the closing stages. Logic can count himself lucky that the AlphaTauri doesn't get past as well, or will he get past? It's going to be down to the line. Look at that. He's going to go. He's going to... Oh, wow. That... I had a little flashback. Interesting things happen here in Silverstone. 10-second time penalty for exceeding track limits to Afro. So that would have been a severe infringement. But what a race by Logic in the closing stages. You've got to take your hat off to him. Don Rabico put pressure on him on a superior tyre. For a majority of that race, he was able to stay in front. Lost it right towards the end. But credit to him for keeping that AlphaTauri behind. Just 700ths of a second in the end. Could have very well lost that podium. There we go, folks. That is Season 6, Round 4 sprint race in Silverstone. Next up, we have the feature race. There we go, there's your official results for the sprint race. France taking the victory, Don Rabico P2, Logic doing a fantastic job but losing out in the end, P3 for him, then Simps P4, Brands P5, Big T P6, Mango P7, It's Free 8th place. Then we have Duke P9, Windsors P10. On the other side of the top 10, we've got Mr. MP11, Microstatic P12. We have the second of the Alpines, Weeze 13, Midas 14, Biffelsfontein 15, Notsumi 16. And Afro got that penalty at the end, 10 seconds. He finishes 17. Jacques and Welsh make up the field. And a solitary DNF going the way of the Mercedes driver, Django. I'll be back with you in 30 seconds. There we go, we're back. And we're ready to get going. 5.8 kilometer circuit, Silverstone. One of the longer circuits on the calendar. 18 corners. Pretty even split, 10 to the left, 8 to the right. No real elevation change. Track is mostly flat. And luckily for this field of 20, it's one of the wider circuits on the calendar. But hopefully we don't see too much bravery into turn 1. There's your red lights. 5 of them. And we're underway. France this time will lead Don Rabico into turn 1. Who's going to get into turn 1 first? France comes out ahead. Logic challenging Rabico. 26 lap race. The sprint race was just 9 laps. 26 laps. Very different from what the guys experienced earlier on. Got to play the long game. Strategy comes into it. Tyres come into it. At least one thing we know is we have dry weather, so we don't have to worry about that. Pretty unrealistic if you ask me. No wet weather in Silverstone. France leads the way, 8/10 of a second is the gap. Remember, it's lap 1, so if he's able to break that DRS before lap 3, it's going to have a major advantage. Logic P2, Simps P3, Rabico in the early stages, P4, but tyres are going to play a big part in this race. We saw a lot of softs in that sprint race. We don't see any softs in the feature race. Everyone choosing mediums or hards. Ironically, the leader, he's on the harder compound, on the slower compound, which means he will have a stronger second half to the race. And Rabico gets past Simps, back up into P3, and that is the completion of lap 1. Making up the field here at the back, we've got Jacques in the Williams. It's all over the back of Welsh. Django just ahead. Remember, he had a DNF in the sprint race, which means he had to start from the back. Notsumi P17. Two Alfa Romeos looking to improve this result before the end of the night. Afro 15. Ooh, and we have contact. And Christian Horner's not going to be happy about that. Somebody's going to get fired because I think that was contact. It was definitely a Red Bull, and if I'm not mistaken, that was an AlphaTauri. Somebody's about to lose their drive. France leads the way, gap just over a second, crucially, as DRS will come into play on the very next lap. Logic P2. Guys, early stages, give me some info. I haven't done any testing on this track. So, when can we expect the medium runners in? When can we expect the hard runners in? And do you think there is also is it just going to be hard onto mediums or mediums onto hards? Or do you think somebody's going to try and stretch those hards and finish on softs? We've seen that from drivers throughout the season, some interesting strategies. Some being able to stretch out a compound and finish on the softer tyre. It really helps in those closing laps when you've got the superior grip. So everyone around you. Mango getting awfully close to the McLaren ahead of him. Last thing you want to see is carbon fibre flying off. Luckily for him, he stays safely behind the McLaren, but now he's going to try and go through up the inside of Copse. And they decide not to go side by side, but I think the McLaren almost got him back. McLaren decided against it. Mango on his way into P6. So the race winner of the last round. We remember the superior pace he showed in round 3. But remember, he is not the championship leader. He only has 26 points. Those were the points he collected on the last weekend. So if he wants to get into this championship, he needs a few more of those results like he had last week. What a race for Wheeze. He's up into P5. Remember, disastrous qualifying session for the Alpine team. They had to start from the final row of the grid. One of those Alpines up in the top 5 on lap 4 of 26. Very much in this race. Top 3 remain in the same order. France, Logic, Rabico, each with a 1 second gap respectively. So no immediate battles there. First immediate battle is for third place. Simps challenging Don Rabico. Wheeze at the back of, rather in the middle of, a DRS train. Mango made up some good ground, but now he's hit a bit of a roadblock. I said earlier in the sprint race how coming through the field is a little bit more difficult when the car in front of you has the same advantage you do. Cancels out the entire DRS effect and makes you go back to good old overtaking. Putting pressure on the driver in front of you, waiting for him to make a mistake. Make sure you don't make any of your own mistakes. And when his mistake does come, you pounce. In a field this close, in a field this quick, you need to take your opportunities when they present themselves. And if you're waiting for mistakes from this field, they might not happen that often. Whoever Buffelsfontein. It's just grayed out, I didn't see that. But Buffelsfontein no longer in the race. We're down to 19 runners on lap 5 of 26. No safety cars this evening. France, Logic, Arabico, still the same order. Simps P4, Wheeze P5. Penalties now starting to pop up on our screens. Big T picks up a 3-second penalty, as does Jacques. Remember, those penalties can seriously hurt you at the end of the race. I've seen people lose their podiums. I've seen people lose their victories because of penalties. Commentated on a race not so long ago where a driver had a 9-second lead, won the race by 9 seconds, had a stellar race, but in the process picked up 15 seconds worth of penalties, and that meant he didn't even finish on the podium. Got to be so careful racking up those penalties, especially this early on in the race. Alpine on AlphaTauri. I thought he was going to pull out of it. I was going to say thinks about it and pulls out of it, but he goes for it. The AlphaTauri's still up the inside. It's not going to give that up that easy. Little bit of contact, little bit of loss of momentum, and that's going to allow the Haas of Mango up the inside. And that's what I mean. You just got to be in that battle, wait for the mistakes. Wait for other drivers to trip over each other, and when they do, take advantage. Mango up into P5. Just pointing out there, Etienne pointing out in the comment section, and as you can see, everyone here in the top 5. Battery almost depleted on lap 6, so everybody giving it everything early on. That's what happens when you're in a DRS train. You lose that advantage of DRS, you look for the next advantage, and the next advantage you have available is ERS. Sometimes you leave it on a little too long thinking you're going to make that pass. And then you find yourself in a situation where on lap 7 you have a completely flat battery. And well, the Alpine, we've caught him at the wrong time. Wheeze having a bit of an incident, losing serious momentum, and that's caused him to lose several positions. He's down into P9. 2 McLarens together, P6 and 7, and Simps still all over the back of that Mercedes. We didn't see that. Mango up into P3. Of course, we're talking about the low battery levels, but remember, everyone in the top of the field is going to have low battery levels. So I don't see anyone. Yeah, I don't see anyone there actually in the top 10 that has significantly managed their battery. Ooh, the McLarens, I thought they were going to swap places. And I think they made contact. What a bit of contact now. The Ferrari touched the McLaren, touching the McLaren, then the Ferrari touching the other McLaren. No visible carbon fiber flying off, so everything should be good. Wizards picks up a 3-second time penalty. France, who's been at the front and pretty comfortable throughout the race so far, he's now going to see the scarlet red Ferrari appearing in his mirrors, and he's going to start to feel the pressure. Remember, he's on the hard, Logic's on the mediums. Those mediums are going to come into their own now around this time. Remember, those mediums will fall off before the hard, so Logic needs to get in front. He needs to open up some sort of a gap. That's why France is doing such a fantastic job. He's on the slower compound and he's managing to stay in front. Remember, Mango and Rabico, another two favorites in this race, also on the hard compound. Don't know why I just noticed that, but both drivers who DNF'd from this race were on the soft tyre. That's a strange stat. The only soft tyres we've seen this race. France leads the way, 1.2 seconds is the gap, managing the gap well. Just needs to keep it out of DRS. Up the inside, Logic. Rabico. Rabico gets up the inside of Mango, and this battle has not seen its end. Lap 9 of 26, how quickly did those 9 laps go by? That's the length of the sprint race over. It's just been such close racing. Big T, 3-second time penalty. Predictions, guys, predictions. Give me predictions. Medium runners, when do they come in? Lap 13, 14, 15, roundabout there. I don't know. Tell me, when do you think the mediums will come in? And is it possible to stretch all the way to softs if you're on the hard compound? Not Shumi now, getting past Django. He's up into P11. Top running Alfa Romeo, his teammate down in P17. Top running Red Bull. Final car in the points, Microstatic. His teammate, it's Midas, down in 14th. But a pretty even split of manufacturers really in the top 10. Say Ferrari so far is having the best night out of the manufacturers. Logic P2, Brands P6. Pit window for the mediums, lap 12 to 14. Either we've had some fantastic racing or safety car is off. We haven't seen even a virtual. So not only are these guys racing hard, they're racing clean. And it's great to see 18 runners from the 20 that started. Not sure what caused those retirements. If anyone knows in the comment section or has further information on those retirements, let me know. If anyone's in contact with either one of those drivers. Or if either one of those drivers are here. Don Rabico still P3, Logic P2. Logic hasn't won any races this season just yet, but has been consistent. And that can be key. The only ever South African Formula One world champion, Jody Scheckter, the year he won the championship, he only won one race. So that was a championship that came down to consistency. Exactly the same stat for Nico Rosberg's dad, Keke Rosberg, also winning the championship with just one race victory. Logic all over the back of the leader coming under pressure for the first time in this race. He's been pretty comfortable, and now we'll see how he performs under a little bit of pressure. Mango's in P3, but he's got a lot of pressure on him too. Got Rabico and Simps right behind him, waiting for any sort of error from the Haas driver. So apparently both those DNFs were not incidents out on track. Those drivers came into the pits and retired. So those retirements weren't linked to an incident necessarily. Big T, 28.4, sets the fastest lap of the race. He's at the back of the field in P17 on a set of soft tyres, the only man on track on a set of softs. He'll be hoping to put on a set of softs, hopefully come through this field, maybe get a late safety car allowing him to make a pit stop. Don't know if those softs are going to take him to the end. Very doubtful. Now France coming under pressure. Logic makes no mistake, goes at the first opportunity, and Logic takes the lead of the race. And now he has to get away, but he can't get away. He's come straight into the pits. All of that for nothing. That's commitment. If I knew I was coming in the next couple of corners, I wouldn't have had that battle. But that's, I guess that's the difference between a commentator and a race driver. France leads the race yet again. Led the race for the entire race, except for a few moments where the Ferrari got its nose in front and then dived into the pits. Logic has emerged from the pits. He's not out of the pits just yet, but he's in P13. Where is Logic? There we go. He's emerged from the pits in P13. And he's come out on a set of hard tyres, which I presume he will take to the end, unless we have any safety car shenanigans in the closing stages of the race. Lap 13 of 26, we're at halfway distance. Yeah, I mentioned that just a few moments ago. Big T, the only driver in the field on softs. It's a peculiar strategy. I think that strategy could come down to one of two things. Like I mentioned earlier, either he's hoping that superior grip will help him come through the field and then hope for a late safety car, which will allow him to come in and change those softs. Or the second option, and this is something that's happened to me multiple times, a Jeff pit stop. We weren't expecting the softs to go on, but that does sometimes happen. Or the worst thing that can happen is you leave the lobby, the AI takes over your car for a lap or two, and in that lap or two they decide to pit and put on the worst tyre available. Mango, Rabico, Simps, all in the pits, Wee's in the pits. France, though, the leader, he has stayed out. Remember, he was on the hard. He's going to take this hard as deep into the race as he possibly can. Most likely scenario, he will finish on the mediums. He could very well take this tyre later on into the race, try finish on a soft, but with the pace of the drivers behind him being so close, it's really not worth the risk. France now comes into the pits. It's Ferrari in P2. Would have inherited the lead, but he pulls into the pits as well. Nobody wants the lead of this race. And in a rather surprising move, Brands and Duke in P1 and 2, they've actually taken their medium longer than some of the guys have taken the hards. Early pit stop for those hards. Django emerging from the pits. Remember, he retired from the sprint race, not in the points for the feature race. We'll be hoping for a better last 15 to 20 minutes of the evening. For now, Brands leads the way. Duke P2. Natsumi P3. Brands 3-second time penalty. Further down, this is Big T. We mentioned earlier, he's the only driver out on softs. Wonder if that was a mistake on the tyre selection, or if he is hoping for a late safety car. We haven't even got a virtual safety car in either the feature race or the sprint race that happened earlier on. So it will be a rather bold bet. But if it does happen, it will... Ooh, look at that. Midas going sideways, trying to get the car slowed down. And I think he's done enough to slow it down, because penalty hasn't showed up on our screens, but that was entertaining. Almost losing it on the entry to the pits. Mango sets the fastest lap of the race, 27.7. That's the man down in P5. And winner of round 3. Also on the move. This race is far from decided. 10 laps to go. How much longer does Brands, does Duke, P1, P2, both started on a set of mediums. They've taken these mediums 15 laps. And I wonder if these two drivers are considering the soft tyre to end the race on. Pantry Star saying his prediction is on this man over here, currently P4. It's P4 on the track, but remember the 3 cars ahead of him. France, there we go, up into P3, and the 2 cars ahead of him are yet to pit. So he will reclaim the lead of this race, while Duke and Brands dive into the pits. Brands and Duke both going for the soft. I just can't see Big T taking those softs much longer. He's already done 7 laps on them. 9 laps to go in the race. And he'd be in mediums territory. France leads the way. And now he's, excuse the pun, but he's in pole position here, because he's got the softer compound, he's got the lead, he's got the pace. And really it's up to him to bring this car home, because he's got everything. He's got all the ingredients rather for a race victory. Just needs to be able to bring that car home. Big T is coming through the field pretty nicely as we predicted on the softs. It's going to have the superior grip, but when those tires begin to drop off around lap 10, 11, you've got to wonder if that strategy is going to play off for him in the long term. But now beginning to put pressure on Simps ahead of him. Weeze P5. Rabico also now in a bit of free air, having a race of his own. As is Mango. One of the closest battles on track is the battle for the lead, 0.6 of a second. Two very different strategies. Logic on a set of hards, 5 laps old. France on the softer compound, the medium compound, and they're fresher too, just 3 laps. So not only does he have the superior compound, he also has a fresher tyre. Here is Big T, and we saw he was all over the back of Simps on the last lap, and now Simps is just a little bit up the road, a good second up the road. So I wonder now if those softs have passed their peak. They might not necessarily be dropping off terribly, but they may have passed their peak. Microstatic 3-second time penalty. We will check up on the penalty shortly. At the front, Logic doing what he can to stay within DRS. The moment that DRS breaks, it's going to have a very difficult time, because at the moment France seems to just have that little extra. Of course, if a driver is a 10.2 faster than you, but you're able to stay in his DRS, you may cancel out that 10.2, but the moment he breaks DRS, you're going to feel that 10.2, you're going to see that 10.2 every single lap. Just gradually falling back, and now he's fallen out of DRS comprehensively, 1.7 seconds. France has done everything right at the right time. We've had great viewership tonight, so I want to thank everybody that has joined the stream. Hit some nice numbers tonight. If you haven't left a like, leave a like, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. So you can get a notification and watch all our races when we upload. We upload on Mondays, Wednesdays and Sundays, usually at 8 PM. France now briefly breaking the 2-second mark. He seems pretty comfortable. Logic seems pretty comfortable. Mango a further 2.5 seconds adrift. Really seems like everyone in the top 5, if they're able to bring the cars home, they will finish in that order. I said we would have a look at the penalties. Let's have a look at those penalties. Simps, he's accumulated 6 seconds. Brands 8 seconds. Microstatic and Jacques 3 seconds apiece. And then Big T also 6 seconds. In fact, Big T did come into the pits, get rid of those softs. He traded them in for a new set of softs, and with 6 laps to go, he's going to have a very tall order of coming through that field. He's 10 seconds adrift from Midas in front of him. So just catching the field is going to be an incredibly difficult task, and then once he gets there, he still needs to make up a few positions because he's comfortably outside the points. At the front, The top three only contain one previous winner. Winner of round 3, Mango. He's currently in P3. Haven't had a victory from France or Logic. So it seems like we will have our 4th race winner in 4 rounds. And I think that's a perfect advertisement for how close this field is. 4 winners in 4 rounds. 4 pole sitters in 4 rounds. As we look for battles on track, Duke, he chases down Microstatic, and then Django, also not far behind. He's chasing down Duke for the final point. Might not think that point means a lot, but when you're down in P11, you see the man in P10 just ahead of you. Trust me, you want that point. You want that point almost as much as you want a victory. For the time being, Duke holds on to that singular point for P10. His teammate, on the other hand, is leading the race, 1.6 seconds, so the gap has come down slightly. But crucially maintaining the gap outside of that DRS range. I think Mango just had a little bit of a wobble because he's lost a bit of time. He was 2.5 seconds adrift from Logic, now 3.5 seconds. I think he might have just had a little misjudgment. But luckily for him, he has a gap large enough to Don Rabico that his position is not under threat. No one in the top 5 has penalties. So hopefully penalties will not decide the order tonight. Evening DB. Logic looking good. He is looking good. He's 1.5 seconds adrift. Gap was 2 seconds, so it's going in the right direction if you're in P2. Problem for him is there's just 4 laps to go. And he could very possibly just run out of laps. But he is definitely closing the gap. 1.2 seconds. He needs to get within the 1 second range. If he's got the better pace, it'll become so much easier once he's within the 1 second range. But for now, France is doing just enough. Frustratingly so. For the Ferrari behind him. Speaking of Ferrari, here we have a battle. Ferrari versus McLaren. And AlphaTauri keeping a close eye. Waiting for the Papaya and the Scarlet Red to trip over each other. That doesn't seem to be the case. They're going side by side. Ferrari comes out on top. Brands P6. It's Ferrari P7. And really that soft tyre in the closing stages, I believe that's what's making the difference. Was able to go past the McLaren side by side with confidence. It came down to that superior grip. But catching up to 5th is going to be... It would be a miracle. Quite a large gap, 6.9 seconds up to Wheeze. Good race for Wheeze. He's looking to finish in P5. Remember, he started from the final row of the grid in that sprint race. Used the sprint race to get himself up the field. Started in P13, I believe. And he's been able to make himself, or make his way up into P5. But pole position in this league continues to be pivotal. Mango had such superior pace in round 3, in round 4, doing just enough to stay on the final step of the podium. That's what happens when you've got a very close championship. It comes down to racetrack. When the field is this close, it really comes down to racetrack preference, and you're going to see different guys at the front from weekend to weekend, and it's really who just clicks with that track a little extra. Don Rabico, also a race winner this season, down in P4. Had 4 retirements. Big T, Afro, Windsors and Buffelsfontein are the 4 DNFs. If we're able to hold on to everybody, we'll hopefully have 16 drivers at the end of this. Big T will take no further part in this race. Obviously, anybody in the comment section, if you see a message on Discord or anything explaining a retirement in further detail, let me know, because we obviously did not see that on our screens. Logic P2, France has done just enough to maintain that gap just outside of DRS, 1.2 seconds. Mango P3 hasn't really challenged at the front, but he's been able to maintain the pace and bring the car home for a decent result. Further back in the field, it's Ferrari all over the back of a Ferrari. Barans, Simps still in this. This is the fight for 6th place. No real battles in the top 5 to speak of. We are now on the final lap, folks. France leads the way, 1.1 seconds. Like I said, managed the gap perfectly, just outside of DRS. Now we have Logic P2, Mango P3. We have a car ghosting. I believe that's a Williams. I think that could be the Williams of Jacques, because Buffelsfontein was the first retirement. We know he retired in the pits. And looking at the tyre selection, you've got to wonder if that's what made the difference. Had Logic and France had equal tyres at the end of the race, we might have had a much closer battle, we might have had a different result, but we'll never know. France did have the superior grip, as well as the fresher tyre, so we're not going to know if that was the advantage. Jacques goes over the line, sets the fastest lap of the race, 1:27.2. France goes over the line, wins the race. Logic P2, Mango P3. No changes in the order because penalties won't affect the top 6. Rabico 4th, Wees 5th. Ooh, and we have an incident. That was a nasty incident. What happened there? Not sure what happened there. Hopefully that was after the start-finish line, because I don't see any DNFs on our screen. So that was fun at the end. My heart rate wasn't up enough. Just give me a little bit of a shock. Everybody, tonight we had a fantastic race. We had a fantastic quali session, a fantastic sprint race, and a fantastic feature race. Every session was better than the last. And the best part of it is we had a great stream tonight. We had a fantastic stream, busy in the comment section. We actually had quite a lot of viewers at a stage. Fast racing, clean racing, competitive racing. And that's what we've come to expect. We now just await your official results. And there we go. Let me try to get through these quickly. So, France, winner of the sprint, winner of the main race, also took pole position. So that is the fourth round where pole position has gone on to win the race. Fourth winner in 4 rounds. Logic P2, Mango P3, Rabico missing out on the podium, P4, then Wheeze P5. It's Faree in 6th, Django 7th, Duke in 8th, Microstatic 9th, and Brands picks up the final point. Not scoring points tonight, Sims P11, not Shimmy P12, Mr. Rem 13, Welsh 14, Shark 15, and then we have our retirements, Big T, Afro, Windsors, and Buffelsfontein. I feel like I missed a name there. It's Midas P16. Folks, once again I want to thank you for joining us tonight. If you haven't left a like, leave a like. Always nice to have some support. Great to have all of you join us this evening. We'll be back on Wednesday night for Tier 2. We're going to do this all over again. We're going to have a sprint race. We're going to have a main race. And we're going to have a whole different selection of drivers. So, I hope to see you then. And until then, cheers.